anyị na Chineke na nke pụrụ ihe niile. Onye ọ bụ naanị ya na-azọpụta. Onye ọ bụ naanị ya bụ okwu ya niile bụ ihe na amen. Anyị wee na-asị ezi ebube dị ngọzi na n'ụtụtụ na ịja mma na nsọpụrụ site n'ebighị ebi ma ruo n'ebighị ebi. Ise, ise, ise.
Welcome, my amazing viewers. Thank you so much for joining me on my program once again. I appreciate you wherever you are joining from. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please kindly subscribe to my channel. Click the notification bell so that you're notified each time I upload a video. You will be among the first to receive it. Thank you so much and remain blessed. If you are joining me from Africa, Asia, Europe, America, Australia, or any part of the world, I thank you very much for your contribution. Please, each time you watch my video, go to the comment section and put down your comments.
With due respect to citizens, majority of us, maybe due to the situation we found ourselves in this country, progressive retrogression into the abyss of backwardness that we call development. I coined it that way. It's understanding the concept of leadership vis-a-vis what is leadership. So the way I see it, most of us, the citizens, rather, I would use the word citizens rather than followership, see leadership as that focal point leader, right? Mr. President, His Excellency, the governor, as the key drivers to success, or the driver of the vehicle, if you like. And to that extent, rightly so, the buck stops at his table, or her table, as the case may be. But I think one of the critical issues to consider is for us today, for example, and I suggest in a lot of other forums, because of the critical nature we found ourselves in this country, to actually do proper diagnosis of this leadership issue. Dimension it with a view to actually the issues as dimensioned, and then chart the way forward. What am I saying? This concept of what I call the we issue and the they issue. You know, we point at, like I said, Mr. President or the governor, they have failed. They are not performing. They are corrupt. While we sit there and judge and say they are. Is what leadership is all about? And to that extent, I would request to borrow a quote from Lee Kuan Yew, one of the foremost, greatest transformative leaders of our time. He said, and I quote, "A nation is great not by its size alone. It is the will, the cohesion of its people." Let's underline that. And the quality of their leaders, with an S. Let's underline that as well. Which ensures that it is a honorable place in history. What are we saying?
Two key issues there.
Yeah. Now, people are leaders. Now, the judgmental approach to say leaders, we forget, this is Lee Kuan Yew now. Lee Kuan Yew, because he was the CEO of Singapore, transforming Singapore. But he is saying this, that he's able to achieve that because of the contributions of the people. And now moved on to talk about the quality of leadership. Leaders. Who are the leaders? So it presupposes that the success of a nation is not based on a singular or a handful of leaders, but indeed dimensional leadership to the various strata of leadership. From the president to the Federal Executive Council, in the case of Nigeria, to the legislature, to the judiciary, to the CEOs of all the MDAs, to the corporate world, business entities, down to our homes, churches and mosques.
To the subnational governments.
Absolutely.
And then to the local government.
Absolutely.
Then to our homes.
That is the critical thing we should look at. So while we are looking at these calendarized activities of elected leaders, which we have been doing since 1999, the question is, has that solved our problem? I know people argue about some polls, rigging of polls and all that, but we also agree that from 1999 to date, we have had some credible elections that we can say, yes, they were credible. And they have brought leaders that we ourselves have chosen because we believe that they had the capacity, the competence, and the integrity to take us to what we call the promised land, or to give us progressive, positive change. Now, what has bedeviled this, our nation, that we are doing what we call in my place, the progress of a well digger. You ask the well digger, how far? He will tell you we have gone far, but he's going deeper into the well. Right? So it means there's something wrong, not just with those people we elect, but with us. The moment we start diagnosing the problem of leadership and citizenry or followership from the perspective of an us issue rather than a they issue or a we issue, then I think we'll start moving in the right direction. Why do I say so? The focal point leader is elected. 1999, we have His Excellency Chief Obasanjo, and today we have His Excellency Muhammad Buhari. And variously we know, as we have seen many times, they have tried as much as they could, based on their position, to do what they believe is good for Nigeria. But because of what I call the leadership value chain, leaders are not omnipotent. Only God is omnipotent. Mr. President cannot be the traffic warden on the street. He cannot be the market selling, the chief in the market. Neither can he be the traditional ruler or the chairman of INEC, for example, or the lecturer in the university. And because we have refused to deal with this issue, which is also, I can tell us, is long-term issue, even pre-independence. You know, if you permit me, in 1947, very interesting, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, before independence, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, the sage, 1947, wrote this and said, corruption is the greatest defect of the national court system of the then Nigeria. And went on to complain how not only the judges were collecting bribes, but that people were also wrongly enriching themselves, you know, and then trying to find ways to change the system. In 1950.
So, sorry, can I just put you on hold?
Yes, please.
It's for the benefit of our viewers and listeners, so that I can hear you clearly.
Yes.
Your mic is not projecting very well. So we'll just take a quick brief to allow us to correct something.
Very well then.
Right.
I like that.
We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Critical, germane to Nigeria's democratic process.
Politicians can only be seen maybe on television by judges. They should not intermingle, because once you intermingle, then you destroy the systems.
When the personalities are big, important to national discourse.
When you reach certain stage of power and you demonstrate arrogance to the extreme, there's no other thing that will happen to you other than to fall.
When the developments are seemingly complex, confounding like a 1,000-piece jigsaw, that's when we require bold, sound, and analytical minds to help put the pieces together. Jigsaw with Benga Arileba, now showing Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. on AIT. Jigsaw, demystifying the issues.
The program is Jigsaw. We're trying to demystify the leadership question on the program today, and our guest is Baba Yusuf. I introduced him much earlier. You were telling us about what late Chief Obafemi Awolowo said way back 1947
to tell you
what it has to do with Nigeria.
We link it to that. You know, talking about people perception of what leadership is and the challenge the leaders are facing when in that what you call the hot seat. So in 1947, the late sage, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, wrote that corruption is the greatest defect of our national court system, right? And complained about how many people, even not only the judges were taking bribe at that time, but people were wrongly enriching themselves and finding a way to avoid prosecution. 1947. In 1950, the late Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, then federal minister, who later became prime minister, also wrote, and I quote him, "The two curses of bribery and corruption pervade every rank and department of government." As at that time, this was his statement.
That was what year?
1950. So what is it telling us? Leadership, for example, we keep on attacking the what I call the focal point leaders, whether it is the president, whether it is the governor, all right, or the minister, or we attack the political called the political class. Now here are two of our prominent statements may God bless their soul, opening the vista to the dimension of the leadership issue, which is actually a relay system from top to bottom and across. Now, if the president is incorruptible above board, and you have CEOs bestriding MDAs that are corrupt, or indeed you have security officers that are corrupt, or you have a judiciary that is corrupt, how do you expect progress to happen? You can bring back a Lee Kuan Yew, for example, and he cannot do anything about it because he has demonstrated and told us that he could do it with other leaders down the strata of society,
vertically
and with the people keen into it. So what we are talking about is shared vision, shared values. And I think at this time, citizens, while also addressing the critical issue of the leaders that have campaigned and take responsibility of leadership, as it were, and are supposed to be accountable to us for what they have said they could do, understanding the problem of Nigeria, understanding the critical issues that we are talking about, but they came and told us they have a solution. So we can continue taking them to task and asking them to perform. However, if we really want to make progress, not the progress of running on a treadmill and you say, where are you? 40 kilometers, but you are still in a fixed place. If you want to make real progress, you need to address this people issue. How am I and you performing in our various roles as leaders? Whether we are parents at home, or we are religious leaders, or we are traditional leaders. If you key into what these two late elder statements say, in 1975, a judicial commission of inquiry looked into why petroleum products that were imported due to the inability of the then Port Harcourt refinery to meet local demand were being diverted because they were not enough. Still, we found out that the petroleum products at that time, 1975, were diverted and smuggled to Chad and Niger. By who? By the president? Of course not. By the minister? Of course not. So if you look at the entire leadership value chain, you look at the top echelon, you look at the upper and middle class, and I dare say today with due respect, because I belong there, the critical failure factor is the fact that the upper and lower middle class of this country have been playing the ostrich. We live a hypocritical life of nationalism and patriotism, but we have been critical contributors to our failure. Because that is why we have the top echelon, middle cadre, top echelon and first line leadership, public sector, private sector, corporate entity, corporate entity, private and public, and indeed even the informal sectors. We are all leaders by our own rights, and how we operate in our own space contributes to the overarching, progress of Nigeria. You take an example. A president decides maybe to approve the process of prosecution of someone that has been found glaringly to be corrupt. And he cannot overstep his boundary because, let's not forget, we are talking within the principles of separation of power because we are running a democracy. Yeah. Running a democracy and the expectations and the mechanics and dynamics of democracy is different. So we don't want to have a president that will overstep his boundary, for example. So what happens in the judiciary to the case? What happens within the value chain of maybe a legislative agenda that needs to be passed into law for actions to be taken, expeditiously for us to see these prosecutions? So everybody has a role to play. And somewhere along the line, you see people that are crying that these politicians have stolen their money will maybe take some small change and come out with placards and say you cannot prosecute so person because he's our son, or he professes our religion, or he's from our region.
I will say that consistently.
And consistently. And across all geopolitical zones, across all religions. The moment somebody is a president, we have this dogma in our heads. Our own is there and he can never do wrong. In fact, we give them godlike personalities. When we see things going wrong, we keep on promoting whatever they are doing. We are not helping them, neither are we helping ourselves. So leadership questions should be contextualized from the angle of expanding it beyond a singular or a handful of people. If you look at the theory of where they say 20% of a society, mostly the 20% are the ones that actually change the society. If you look at the entire civil service of Nigeria and the entire political class, are they up to 1% of 200 million people?
Obviously.
So it presupposes that leadership is not just that. Yes, we have to look at capacity, competence, integrity, the integrity of the process. If we collect money and vote, we should know the consequences. For example, if you vote people based on ethnicity or religion, we should know the consequences as well. While we are doing that, this is just something that happens every 4 years or 2 years or whatever. The critical change factor, the critical success factor is how we live our lives and we do our jobs. And I leave you with a closer for your next question. Go and stand at the traffic light anywhere in Nigeria for 10 minutes. And that will tell you the problem or indication of the problem we have in Nigeria.
And you see, from the big man who is blowing siren, who probably is a top government official, to the taxi man who is driving a green and white painted.
He's probably having 8 children at home and he's a leader in his house, or a deacon in church,
everybody breaking the traffic rules and all of that. From the big man to the poor man, all of us have that same mentality.
And while you are at it, many times we have seen where people we consider critics or cynics or people we consider above board, especially with the middle class that I call armchair critics and armchair politics and armchair lawyers. We are always good at analyzing things. Give the person one opportunity and you can, just small opportunity, whether it is a community association or whatever.
We are going to make him the admin of a WhatsApp group.
Absolutely. The damage you will see in you now try to simulate if that person is a president or governor, what the person will do.
Okay, let's use the Lee Kuan Yew theory of leadership here now. A lot of people tell me that those kind of leaders, the Lee Kuan Yew, perhaps the most modern of such leadership now will be Paul Kagame. If you use Paul, a lot of people may not be aware of Lee Kuan Yew. So, but Paul Kagame is still alive, he's in power, and Nigerians now find it easy to go to Rwanda to go and see what is happening there. Exactly. So, if we use that kind of leadership, it's obvious that you need some collection of people acting a concert. But we've seen that in Nigeria. From 1975 or so, when the military started interfering in our political lives, every time they interfere, they give the excuse, corruption and all of that. The same song that even our nationalist leaders before independence were talking about. The military will talk about it. Every time the military coup happens, it's the same corruption they talk about. Up to now, it is still with us. So it's not as if we've not had people who came out to be altruistic and somehow along the line they derail. What happened? Because it then means that if a Lee Kuan Yew emerges in Nigeria, he may not succeed after all. If a Paul Kagame finds himself in Nigeria, he may not succeed.
That is exactly what I said a couple of minutes ago. I said if a Lee Kuan Yew will come back and let's say
come to Nigeria,
it will fail because of this critical
issue.
Is this so? Why it's is this a people's issue. Let's go back a bit to Lee Kuan Yew and come back to Paul Kagame. Lee Kuan Yew ran a government based on 3 critical ingredients: meritocracy, and there's a diversity vision he had about managing multi-races. It's a multiracial society which is similar to us because we're a diverse country, more diverse than Singapore actually. And what he calls civil nationalism, where you deal with issues of equality, freedom, civic liberties and all that. What does that tell you? He was able to succeed because if you go back and read the memoirs of Lee Kuan Yew, he said he had massive support. He had a very strong parliament. Now, that parliament is similar to the parliaments we mostly have in Nigerian context. I hear you say that in 1999, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo had the majority in the parliament. But the people in the parliament that were majority to help drive the legislative agenda keyed into the vision, keyed into the value. So, as I was saying in my opening remarks, the shared value and shared vision between the leaders and the citizens down the chain of command are critical success factors. The value system of Nigeria has eroded over time almost to zero. And that is why I backtrack a bit to 1947. And you heard what Chief Obafemi always said at that time. But if you go pre-colonial era and go across the entire Nigerian space, where even before the colonial masters came, stealing is a taboo across all nationalities.
Yes.
Okay? Whether you profess Islam or Christianity, in fact, even before Christianity and Islam.
Yeah.
All right? Now, all those values have eroded over time. And that is the disconnect. So if you have the best of leaders at the top, and you don't have the critical supporters down what I call the leadership value chain, it will not happen. In the case of Paul Kabagi, very interesting. I have friends in Rwanda, you know, and I have this friend in Kigali, and we were discussing. And you know, the first time I met this lady, what I asked her was, "Are you a Hutu?"
Oh, a Tutsi.
She blushed.
Yeah, because she
said, "No, they shouldn't hear that."
Yes.
In Rwanda, we are Rwandese.
Yeah, you are not a Hutu or a Tutsi.
We are Rwandese. You don't say that elsewhere. I cannot tell you now if I'm a Hutu, a Tutsi, I'm a Rwandi. Until today, I only know this lady or all my friends in Rwanda because I took a cue from that. They are Rwandese. Now, this is entrenchment of value systems. We don't have that today. You have to go and cry.
Why? Because all of that came as a result of their experience in the pogrom.
Yes.
Between the Hutus and the Tutsis.
Yes.
But we've had our own fair share of such problems. We've gone through civil war.
Yes.
We've gone through settlement coups that are taking lives. We've gone through, what is it that we have not gone through in this country that is not similar to what Rwanda has passed through?
You see, that is why it is a people's issue. Every day we see this, even after civil war. As we speak today, we are living the horror of our own making. So if it starts from home, the value systems in churches, we have religions we profess, and most people will agree with me that we are a praying nation, but we are not a godly nation. Right? And those are the fundamental issues. We are a country of majority pretentious people. I'm sorry to say, but we are speaking to the issues so that we can move forward. We cannot sit down and say we want the best of leaders. Where are they going to come from? The colonial masters have packed their bags and gone. And 70 years after the fact, or 60-something years, we are still whining about colonial masters being the reason for ours. Well, we had late Chief Obafemi Awolowo in 1947. And then, importantly, we are human beings that God has given all the faculties and the senses. So we know right or wrong. It is this greed that is in us that we need to deal with, you know. And that is why I mentioned the critical failure factor as this particular, within the spectrum, this particular bandwidth, if you like, of the upper and lower middle class that are critical to our successes. The people that I call the working class, that we can say the masses, the uneducated, the illiterates, interestingly form the majority of the voters. And people can say, yes, they are hungry. I hear a lot of my brothers and sisters saying, if the politicians, they first make you hungry, so that when you're hungry, you have to what they say. Come on, for crying out loud. What happened to the upper and lower middle class that have completely taken oxygen out of these people, that are closer to the people? Not just the political class. So it's a people issue that has happened. What happened, Benga, is the erosion of our value system. There is no political ideology that will make Nigeria better if we don't deal with the fundamental value system. Go to school, you hear what is happening in school.
And there's no amount of laws that will also make that can change that.
Laws in Nigeria, we have enough laws.
That's what I'm saying.
I hear a lot of new hue and cry about making new laws or building new institutions. We have not even effectively and efficiently run our current institutions properly. We have not properly prosecuted and executed our laws to ensure that things don't happen. We have one of the best collection of laws and prosecutorial agencies in the world, but we are failing because we are not acting. I give you an example with the corporate institution. When the CEO fails, they fire him, right? Ask veterans of the board. If the second CEO fails, before they fire him or while they fire him, they start doing a diagnosis of the entire organization. They know that it may not be a leadership issue, it may be an institutional issue, and that is when they start doing transformation or reform or whatever to actually identify the critical cultural issues that are manifesting to make a leader consistently fail. You understand? And then what do? They ensure that that transformation takes everybody on board, from the shop floor to the board themselves, to chart a new course for a company or a corporate entity that will move forward properly. So what I'm saying to us, we are not a corporate entity, but we are a people that are empowered by the Constitution to choose our leaders, to call them to account. But indeed, by default, as human beings, we should also do the proper things so that what we expect of those leaders will be right and done. Why? Because the leaders are a reflection of the society.
Exactly.
They are our brothers and uncles, our mothers and aunties. Paul Kagame cannot come and become president of Nigeria. Indeed, we have one of the best group of people. Right across the strata, I've seen the best of men and women. Right from the working class to the presidency. We have them everywhere in the world. But together, collectively, how do we fare? 70% of the current population of Nigeria, over 200 million, constitute youths below the age of 30. My brother, the value system, go to schools and see what we do to our children. You read, you see. These are the leaders of tomorrow. So one majority of youth are focused on earning a living, delivering value, adding value, and actually wanting to be part of the growth system of Nigeria, which I agree. There is a fraction of them that are so poisonous and pungent, having keyed into this mentality that we, the middle class, have fed and injected into them, of making money fast, on living a life on the fast lane, because there are no values of integrity, of hard work, of earning your place, of paying your dues. Okay? So subconsciously, we are actually turning the youth into monsters.
But my worry really is this. We are in the process, we are in actual fact, we are on the march now.
Absolutely.
In search of new leaders.
Yeah.
And the question is, these leaders, where are we going to get these so-called utopian new leaders? Where are we going to get them from? Because if you put together all those who are jostling for all the offices that will be available next year now,
Yes.
chances are that 90 to 95% of them have been in one political office or the other since 1999 or the other since 1999.
Yes.
And we have not moved forward.
Yes.
So they are not saints that are coming from outer space. They are people who have been moving from one office to the other since 1999, and they are, among them are the people that were jostling now to find new leaders.
Yes.
Will anything change? Because they're doing something repeatedly the same way and expecting changes. Do you have that fear that 2023 will actually not be the year that will be on the march to the promised land?
Let me say this. Excellence is a process. And the way we are and where we are, we should not kid ourselves. The solution to where we should be in ideally as a country is not going to happen in 2023. But indeed, we pray and hope that this political process.
Thank you so much for your patience to watch from the beginning to the end. I hope you have learned something from the video you have just watched. The video you have just watched is to bring information to your doorstep and for educational purpose. It is not to demonize anybody. Let us watch continuously and see who can be able to make a sense out of every nonsense we are seeing. We must continue. We move. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter what they say. They will kill us. We will kill them. At the end of the day, Biafra is here. Thank you for watching. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please kindly subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell so that you're notified each time I upload a video. You will be among the first to receive it. Thank you and remember blessed. Bye-bye. See you again.